morning, good afternoon, good evening, world. No matter where you are, it's such a privilege for me to be here after 3 full days of knowledge, wisdom, innovation, technology, AI, of course, and leadership. I'm Christina Imre, the founder of Tech Leadership Lab, welcoming everyone at this hour, no matter where you are in this world, because we encourage unity for humanity and for the future. No matter your location, your gender, your age, your profession, your background. We care about what we can live in this world and what we can build together. We had 3 amazing days with amazing speakers. The feedback we, the Tech Leadership Lab, received on all the channels were just like amazing. They are pouring in, and things won't stop with this last panel. It's just the start of creating in real time a consensus together where we can see how we align through the data we received during these days and what we can do later in a way that you will be together wired with us with all the findings, all the content, and all those steps that we want to put in front of the decision makers of today and policymakers here. This is what we have. Can we do this now? How about constructing that unifying story for us to build a better future? Because basically it's about stories, it's about what we put in our head. Do I want to hate you because you're somewhere in this globe and you didn't have the facilities for education? Or do I want to love you and be compassionate and empathic for you because you are also part of the human race? And the existential threats we are facing today, it's about all of us. It's not just about the US, it's not about Asia, it's not about Europe, it's not about Australia, it's not about South America, North America. Whatever, wherever you are, it doesn't matter. We are in this together. And if we decide to change the story of what we want to build, starting now, not tomorrow, not next year, not next fiscal year, not other decisions that need to be delayed, then we have a chance, not just to build a better future for us, to solve the existential threats that are all over us, but also leave a beautiful legacy for our children and the future generations. I want to address a little bit of a challenge we faced with Humanized Tech before. It was a panel where we needed to restart on YouTube. You see, this is AI, this is technology we need to include in our ways of dealing with the world. Because during the break, you were used with breaks, I prepared a beautiful TED talk about humanity, about our ancestry and why it's important for us. But YouTube through the algorithms, probably not bad intentionally, took it off. And so we needed to restart because it was labeled probably by the algorithms as a foreign stuff that was just like streaming, and it was not part of our original content creation. And this will be solved later. You will see the materials, everything you lost. But I'm just sorry for the inconvenience. You see, we have so many things to tackle, but we can do it together. And today at our panel, we have the awesome moderators for all the panels and people who are very, very good in creating materials, documents, and consensus. And I'm super, super happy to be here. So don't leave the story here. Help us build a consensus, help us grow a Tech Leadership Lab that is an action-oriented think tank for the future of humanity and solving those SDGs sooner. We are here to amplify the voices and the data and what we need to do in a way that we will have that future we all dream about. And with that said, please allow me to introduce all panelists of today. And Carlos, my colleague and partner in crime, will be here to guide us today as a moderator as well to nail this part, the final part.
Hi, everyone. I think Christina covered a lot of what has happened this week. I mean, it's been an amazing conversation. The technology, the people, the conversations, the feedback, the comments, the questions. I mean, it's all been very inspiring, and we're really thankful to everyone who's participated. A special shout out to all of our panelists and speakers. They volunteered their time. They are experts in their field. They have been amazing to work with. Thank you so much, all of you. You're amazing. Thank you. With that, what we're going to get into here is we're going to actually start talking about each of the sessions. And so we're gonna kind of take a step through this week. We're gonna talk to the moderators and people who participated in the panels. And then at the end, we'll have more of an open conversation about the event as a whole. We'll go into break. And then when we come back from break, we'll get into kind of starting to build that consensus document, right? Understanding what some of the differences are, what some of the commonalities are, right? And how do they influence and impact the actions and next steps we can take. Speaking of that, one of the things that that we have been promoting is our survey. This is a climate survey that if you take now, go back through, listen to this event, get engaged, participate in some of those elements that you might have scored low on. We would love to see how you evolve over the next couple of months and take that quiz again in September. And so you can see your score grow. You're going to have a lot of good ideas coming out of this event. And we want to be able to measure the impact from where you are today to where you are in September. And that's ahead of our October summit. And so we would love to be able to have that information to show, as we always say, we're not just about words, we are focused on action. So with that, oh, thank you. Yeah. With that, I want to get into conversations about the first session. First session was obviously one of the most important ones. And we actually have multiple people here that can speak to it. We have Richard James McGowan, who is there. We have Advocate Divya and Christina. And so the first session was, what's urgent? What's real? What needs to be done first? Walk us through. Let's start with Divya. Let's start with you, because I think that you had a lot of really good points, and I would love to hear from you. And then we'll go to Richard and Christina.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I hope I'm audible properly. And it's a good evening, quite midnight in India. I'm from Varanasi, and it's amazing to be here amongst such esteemed panelists, and to know that everyone is so much involved in talking about climate, or about talking about humanity, and what we are going to leave for our future generations to look up to, and not blame us that we have used all the climate and left the earth. So that's how I see it. Talking about the first day and the very first panel, we actually were quite clear about the agenda, that we have to talk about not only AI, how it is developing, but about the kind of infrastructure which it is using and how it is impacting the climate. My aspect was more based on how gender can be more helpful. Involving 100% of the population will be more helpful, rather than just focusing on, let's say, 60 to 65%. So if we want to save 100% of the climate, we have to at the end involve 100% of the population, that comprises everyone or anyone on earth. So that's how we were looking at it. My intention was more about talking related to what our speakers were talking that day. Like Professor Susan that day talked about change of the mind, about what is happening and how we are going to take care of it. So my take was, are we going to just regulate things, and do we see that only regulations and laws are going to help us? Or there are other ways in order to form a consensus, or maybe an understanding that everyone is playing their own part and not blaming others that they did this, they did that. We are supposed to be taking the responsibility of whatever has happened, but we have to take it forward and work on it. We have to invest diligently. We have to find that inspiration to include everyone. There should be diversity. There should be cultural aspects also being included, because leaving out culture, I really don't see much of the much of change that can happen, because with environment we are culturally also very much attached. There are numerous number of cultures which pray, which not only pray, they are dedicate their lives for environment. Indigenous people, they are very much dependent entirely on the climate and the environment which happens. That day we were talking about biomimicry lab as well. My take about that was talking about neuro rights and brain rights, and how that is going to impact everyone and anyone, basically in the way how consumerism is taking place and how fast we are moving ahead in the future, what kind of looks we are going to have in next, let's say, 10 to 20 years, how AI is going to shape our thought process as well. So that was my understanding. And then there was talk about clean tech. I again was more skeptical about understanding why we are not only talking about clean tech, but we have to involve again gender, and we have to find equality in contribution to that particular cause. Everything is dependent on how women are going to take stand as well, because they are the first responders, and first responders in a sense that they are the ones who interact with the kids, they are the ones who interact with the family, with society most of the times, because in the most cases men are more into earning for the house, and women are more about taking care of the house and the environment for that matter. So that is something which my takeaway from that day was, and my intention was more talking about legal rights and how we are going to frame the kind of policies which we need on universal level, just not on local level or national level, because the need of the hour is to go global and find the solution globally, and not just minding the fact that it's our problem, it's not their problem or something like that. So we have to find a solution globally, without minding the developed or developing nation gap, and to understand the concepts first before implementing anything, be it AI, be it privacy, be it culture, be it diversity. We have to find that gap and fill it first, and then probably go ahead and start finding the problems. First we have to pinpoint the problems and then try and find the solutions. Pinpointing the problem is most important. For me, it's all about involving tech ethics, involving gender in tech and gender in AI as well. And I guess humanity will take forward and it will take its course. It will complete. Nature has its own way of helping us, supporting us, and it has always been doing. So I guess I'll stop here. And that's something which I understood from that day.
Well, thank you. No, I actually jotted a bunch of questions, but I'm not going to ask questions as much as I want to, because I do want to get through everything. But yeah, no, I'm doing it old fashioned, right? You know, book and paper. Sorry. I know technology is great. I love it. But sometimes book and paper is nice too. Richard, so you were part of that conversation. Divya brought up biomimicry. Obviously, you know, that's who you're with, the Biomimicry Innovation Lab. Your take?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Diwa mentioned, especially around gender equality. We're actually working on a project in India at the moment around that for small-scale fishing communities, and actually understanding the planetary health implications. So that's planetary health is about why are our ecosystems collapsing as human wealth increases? Is there not an interaction there? And actually by educating people about the value of their habitats and ecosystems actually can actually help change the ways of doing through education and learning as well. And that really fits into a lot of the stuff we talked about during our panel session, and looking at really building consensus and getting people understanding, because you can't just go in there and demand X, Y, Z, you know, like a top-down approach, or having these community activists, you know, basically preaching on and on. And sorry, I shouldn't use the word preaching, because both sides can do that, but it ends up, you know, neither listens to either. You want that missing middle, a place where actually action happens. And there's got to be a bit of give and take. And the key thing there that Dewa mentioned as well was about understanding the problem. You know, because one of the things that came up, young Bo was mentioning about the fact that, you know, we can tap into the resources of heavy industry. You know, it's about understanding that what's waste can be, you know, a resource, whether it's, you know, energy, materials coming out that's not their primary production, water, heat. All these things could be used as part of a kind of industrial ecology, circularity process. Why are we not growing food next to our industrial plants using the excess heat? I often use the example of British Sugar, who are in the UK in one of their plants where they generate 25% of the revenue from medical grade marijuana, and it's hothouse. Originally, it was sold for hothouse tomatoes, and that's the excess CO2 and the heat coming off. So why not do that in the same places in the UK with Octopus Energy, and they've set up a deal for swimming pools to be heated by server farms, which kind of follows the same line. There's a swimming pool down in Oxfordshire near London that's actually heated by the heat from a crematorium, but that's a bit more morbid there. But it's tapping into those kind of things, and I think this is really understanding the key problems. Whenever I talk to people, sometimes everybody wants to rush in, bring out their toolkit, and try and go through it. But if you don't know what the problem is, sometimes it could take a year. Understanding the place. If you're going to be working a place and looking at habitats, you're not from the locality, but you need to know different seasons, how people interact with the changes. We can't just rush in there. There's a lot of big pushback against rewilding, not rewilding as a whole kind of concept itself, but sometimes we're forcing intentions onto nature. We're trying to control it. In the natural world, evolution is unintentional. Nature will do things. It reminds me of we used to teach in this module on landscape architecture, and the head of Arup's landscape team was like, the biggest thing engineers don't get is street trees will not go where they want. They'll go where they want to go. So it's like they're trying to control things that just grow. It's a bit like small children. So I think this is the key thing. We need to understand this with AI as well, and everything else is actually trying not having to use tech everywhere. We suddenly just turn into gadgets. I think somebody was talking on this panel or somebody else about how many people actually use their full functionality of their mobile phone. I know some people that only have like one app on it. It's like, well, why are you buying the latest smartphone? You may as well just do like my wife's grandfather did, and had an old phone, and he didn't know how to put the details in for everybody's contacts, so he had a little notebook the same size and elastic band. It's a lot cheaper. So it kind of gets into the fact is using things for a need instead of just a want. The other key things that really just came out is kind of the imbalance of the systems now. The global north really is just imbalance where, you're seeing a lot of things where everything it appears to be going in and doing good, but it's not really. I do see that this needs to change, but how? It's going to be a slow process. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be tipping points as the climate changes. There's going to be tipping points when we shift between fossil fuels and other energy sources as well. And it's not going to be an easy transition. That's for sure. And we've seen that before with you moving to horses to fossil fuel based cars or anything else. It's a bit of a transition state. So I really think that, to sum up from our panel, it's about, and this sentiment's been already mentioned, is about gauging everybody, giving everyone a voice and listening to them as well. Understanding what the needs are, that you're listening to, the ancient wisdom, listening to your elders, listening to the people who have lived there for centuries, instead of just flying in and thinking you can stick a big skyscraper that's designed for Northern Europe, whereas, in the middle of a desert. And and really actually start shifting around. And one of the key things I've seen is really, look at ecosystem or ecological based policies instead. Understand the land. If we destroy it, we're not going to have anything there, and then you're going to have to do kind of another telegrabbing where you're actually just taking over another habitat ecosystem to use that to make your own space. So I think, to sum up, really is really look at how we can protect our planet, the places where we live, and actually understand that, how can we grow and restore our habitats and ecosystems?
Yeah. No, I think that you kind of highlight some really good points. More questions, but I think understanding the problem definitely is starting to come out as kind of a topic to talk about, the global north. Something that you mentioned too about understanding what the problem is. If you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? And so it's not necessarily what the tool is; it's understanding what its purpose is, right? And sometimes understanding what its purpose is. I'm sorry?
Yeah, a fool with a tool is still a fool.
I know you love that one.
I know, I do, don't I? And I don't know why I was just looking at you directly when I said that. I didn't mean to. But
I don't know why. So, but Christina, I know that this topic was kind of like when we started planning, this was the very first topic you brought. This was what you really wanted to dig into. It was you made it the first session. You packed it with some good people. What do you think?
Yeah, I would want to add something important, because maybe the audience doesn't know exactly what consensus is and why it's such an important word for us and for the summit. So consensus, it's not majority and it's not compromise. It is to find something common on what everyone can agree on and everyone can gain. Because usually when you have majority, then some people lose, and they might lose badly. Then when you have the compromise, you just don't feel like it, and there are many kind of side effects you don't want, because you will have resentment. With consensus, you have a broader understanding about the social, the broader good that involves everyone, and everyone can gain from a consensus. That is why at the global scale and the global level, we want leaders to truly understand the meaning of consensus. And what we are simulating here, it's exactly based on that. And yes, the first panel was super crucial because it was built around different disciplines, different topics that are focused on solving humanity issues, but from different perspectives and expertise. And then we backed it up with climate resilience and adaptation that had an entire panel for that reason. And from the first panel, what we got, and I have here my notes because, yeah, thanks to AI in this case, yes, we shouldn't use technology for everything. I completely agree. But for this specific reason, AI helped us a lot to have the transcripts, to put everything in real time together. Daniel Melendez, thank you for that. And I have the notes here because we had our ChatGPT made specifically for the consensus and aligned. So just for you to understand the background, we said what we want to achieve with this. And so I have the notes here, and I don't want to talk from memory because I don't just repeat something that it's here. We got a lot of commonalities inside the first panel. So what we identified, it was that climate change is an urgent existential threat. Everyone aligns on this, and it requires immediate collective action. This is very, very good. It is a huge consensus. We don't need to negotiate too much around this. And there is a need for global unity, leadership, and consensus building to tackle climate change and achieve sustainable development goals sooner. Then AI and technology can be powerful tool to help address climate change, but it needs to be developed and used responsibly, ethically, and aligned with human values. Very important word. Avoiding unintended consequences and trauma, including psychological trauma from rapid technological disruption. That is important because the disruption that can cause over the large amount of population, and many that are climate immigrants or will be, it's already too much on the human psyche. Then we had a big consensus on nature-inspired innovation, and we have Richard here, and biomimicry that has significant potential for developing climate solutions and materials and business models inspired by nature. And this cross-sector collaboration is key, bringing together diverse experts across disciplines. And we had the transition engineering brought by Susan deck, and that was absolutely amazing to see how we can continue and see the future in our aspects to prevent what can go wrong. The climate adaptation resilience had an entire panel, and David will talk about this. And the interdisciplinary approach was about what I just mentioned before, and then we switched to clean technology. Here we talked about clean tech and why including renewable energy systems with storage, AI, optimization, sensors, blockchain can your favorite topic, one of the favorite topics, right, Carlos, make it a little bit more approachable. We are not like here, we are not politicians. Let's just have some humor. And if we don't know what to say, then just put Richard on stand and he will know. And so this clean technology innovation put together, they can drive the rapid transition that we need. But scaling access equitably is crucial, as in public awareness. And here Divya just did an amazing job. And we will continue to develop this exact topic. Policy, regulation, funding, incentives must align to accelerate sustainability, research, clean tech adoption, and infrastructure changes. And partnerships between government, academia, business, and NGOs are vital. Here we have lots to do. And individual mindset shifts and systemic change are both essentials. Climate action requires collective advocacy. So it's not just from the top, it's not just from the bottom. We need to connect at an emotional level and take personal responsibility, not just letting others to do it for us. Otherwise, we might just get out of time. And then we had different differences and opportunities. And let me see what would be the most relevant to see here. Maybe even if we just draw the conclusion that we have a broad agreement through the panel and all the comments and feedback that came, that it is a systemic action needed at a global scale to address climate change through both bottom-up grassroots efforts and top-down policy changes. And the balanced principled approach that incorporates multiple viewpoints could help forge innovative yet ethical solutions. And areas of common ground include framing climate action, developing solutions through cross-sector collaboration, leveraging existing information, accounting for impact on all stakeholders now and in the future, and accountability is key, because otherwise we will again stall too long. Piloting initiatives at multiple levels from individuals and national global scale that empowers diverse groups, and with the respect to local needs, and sharing knowledge and aligning stakeholders through open information platforms to identify mutually beneficial partnerships. And that is the definition of consensus.
Yeah, that's a lot of information. Thank goodness we have AI.
For sure, yes.
But it, and what's great is this kind of then leads into some of the ways to address what you've mentioned is some of the technology, and that kind of was what session 2 was about, impactful tech. And so, Christina, we had 6 amazing presenters. Some of them actually addressed some of the concerns that have been raised directly. Some of them had very creative ways of kind of engaging and empowering communities and so forth, like Fast Agger, right? And so what did you get from session 2?
Fortunately, I have my own summary, but also the AI summary. Thank you, Daniel, again. For this reason, because I am coming from the startup world, I consider myself a true-born entrepreneur. I love entrepreneurship, startups, everything that innovates and brings us to the future. The selected 6 startups, for those who didn't see, you need to go there and just do whatever you can to put those technologies into function on a global scale, because this is how we identify them, that if they might get scared, we might have a chance. But those are just the prototype of 6 amazing startups. We have innovation around the world. But every single business, because they were not exactly all startups. Startups is a business that constantly evolves. I mean, I know founders who are telling they have a startup after 9 and 12 years. So just to have definitions clarified. And all of them brought different solutions to the world, that if they are united and combined, we might have a beautiful future, where we don't just need to think about things that they are constrained and we will lose so much. No, we can transform. It's about transformation. It's about evolution, one of the favorite topics and words for Maura here present. So if we can see that we need to shift just get out of the box. Don't think old ways, because old ways are what? Old, from the past. They don't need to define us today. We usually tend to live in the past for too long, and then because of the comfort zone, we get too stressed to get out of it. And what it was identified through the discussions and the startups, that yes, urgency and collective action is needed. So here are again in agreement, and this is great. All summaries underscore the urgent need for global collective action against climate change, with AI as a pivotal tool in this endeavor. Now, with AI, we had an entire discussion that we will have the summary here, and also receive from Keith what he got from that. The ethical and responsible AI use was a lot mentioned in the Impactful Tech panel. The importance of developing and using AI ethically, responsibly, ensuring alignment with human values to avoid the unintended consequences. Here, we need a little bit more wisdom, I would say, a broader and deeper approach. Think about it, because we might create monsters without our will, but we might also create something much better. Cross-sector collaboration. It was highlighted, and founders agreed that they need interdisciplinary approaches for their tech to be implemented globally and scale, and have faster solutions that can mitigate today's problems sooner. And this way, various sectors can address climate change effectively if we have this combination of multidisciplinary approaches. Then we had innovation inspired by nature, a shared emphasis. Again, Richard, people love this. They just love the idea of nature-inspired innovation, biomimicry or biomimetics, academically speaking, for developing climate solutions and sustainable materials. And then the importance of adaptation and resilience was mentioned inside the consensus, because some of the innovators are working in this space. They're especially for that, to mitigate resilience and adaptation, and that needs to be financed appropriately. And it was very nice to see that they are very, very clear about what we need in this domain. So entrepreneurs are on top of the game. And equity and inclusivity. It was mentioned a lot as a common theme, that it's essential that marginalized communities in AI development and application processes ensuring equitable benefits, because AI today, it's not exactly equitable. All the data set and everything that is relied on, the AGI, let's say, in development that will come on us, we don't know when, it's still very biased, and we have to take this into consideration. Then we had differences highlighted: approaches to climate action, divergence on what needs to be prioritized. Here we don't have an agreement yet, not consensus agreement. Frameworks for addressing climate challenges. Again, we need to do more here to solve the opportunities for innovation, because there are some constraints for innovators in this area because of the lack of frameworks. And value creation accounting. And other than that, just a second, I think these were the main topics. The conclusion is that we have the strong consensus about we have the technology that needs to be leveraged with responsible AI that still needs to be kept under control until we make sure that we do the right things with it.
Yeah, one of the things that I found interesting about the Impactful Tech was also we had about 3 of them were focused on clean energy, and I think that that's really important towards the future of climate. And there was another one that was using smart technology to manage heat, thermal. Thermal build.
Thermal build, yes.
Yeah, and the idea of smart heating and so forth, and obviously it's not just producing energy, it's also how energy is used and so forth. And I thought that was really good. And then D-spray with recycling and obviously creating, trying to fit into the circular economy and making sure that that can all fit together and that it becomes a profitable venture, right? Because that's also one thing that I remember coming out of session 1 and session 2 is how do you actually fit it into the current economic model instead of trying to shift the economic model? Because especially in the heavy industry, right? That was something that came up a couple of times, and why, Yangbo with, what he's doing with the heavy industry and so forth, and some of the other things in
Profitable net zero. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so I definitely think that the idea here is that there's definitely a lot of technology that can evolve to help us create different paradigm in how we engage climate action without it being a completely new thing that makes it very difficult for people to engage in. And that, I think, is one of the biggest ahas I've been getting out of, especially the technology, because they weren't trying to reinvent the wheel. They were just trying to make the wheel better. And that was key. And with that idea that you don't have to reinvent everything, that you really need to think about the profitability. David, obviously this leads into what your panel was about with climate adaptation and resilience. And obviously even PPPs came up, private-public partnerships came up a little. So tell us, what did you get out of your panel? Good panel, by the way.
Well, thank you. And I'm, again, I take no credit for anything that we did in that session because I had such a fantastic panel and they're all part of my organization's team, which was even more fulfilling. We talked about a wide range of issues. I mean, climate adaptation is not well understood and it's much more complex than most people think. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, and quite frankly, the discussion was so robust, I just ran out of time. But the United Nations Office of Disaster Risk Reduction, UNDRR, they've come out with a new series, and it's based on what Secretary Gutierrez said in COP28. We want no more disasters, and I think that's confusing to people because well, wait a minute. Disasters are going to happen more frequently and more intensely than ever. And you're saying we don't want disasters. Well, there are hazards. There are natural and man-made hazards. They only turn into disasters when places aren't prepared. People aren't prepared. The built environment, the natural environment is not prepared. That's when it turns into a disaster. And I think that what we tried to focus on was, what do we need to do to reduce this disaster occurrence? We're going to have hazards. We're going to have more hazards. We're going to have more powerful storms. We're going to have more wildfires. We're going to have more drought, more flooding. That's where we are. But what can we do to mitigate, reduce the negative impacts of those events? And the goal would be to get to the point there that they are hazards, they're events that are disruptive, but they're not disasters, because there's human suffering and death is minimized. Economic hardship is minimized. Hardship on families and children is minimized. And the thing that runs through this entire conference, utilizing technology for good, utilizing innovation. And I think Dino Paternostro, had a great insert there when he talked about entrepreneurship and innovation in climate adaptation. And we're really seeing an uptick in that. And it's really gratifying to see, not only in my own organization, but in other organizations around the world that are really focusing on how do we better withstand what's going to happen. And I think that the connection between adaptation and sustainability is obvious, but some people don't realize that if you minimize the negative impact, if you minimize the number, the infrastructure, facilities, the built environment, and the natural environment that would have to be rebuilt, if you didn't implement resilient activities, that is an environmental cost. That is carbon. To rebuild a bridge takes a lot of carbon. To rebuild sand dunes that have been damaged because they weren't constructed, that takes carbon. and it takes away from carbon reducing natural environments. So we really tried to make that connection very, very directly so that people could see that. And, the other issue, so many impacts. We talked about health. We talked about impacts on healthcare. We talked about the equity and inclusion issue, which is huge. I mean, this is something that, again, we have to sound as a group. We have to sound the alarm on this, because people that are at or below the poverty line, and this is globally, are 3 to 4 times more negatively impacted by disasters than people that are above the poverty line. And there are billions of people that are suffering because they don't have the resources to be able to implement adaptation in a meaningful way. So that the discussion was great, and the audience participation was incredible. And so many great questions. Carlos, you mentioned public-private partnerships. I mean, my organization was founded as a conduit for public-private partnerships for climate adaptation. And so that someone asked that was really wonderful for me to hear, that people are really paying attention to this. And they're looking at, okay, how do we make this work? And how can we increase the investment? Again, 4% of total climate investment goes to adaptation. I'm not saying we continue to increase investment in climate mitigation and carbon reduction. But in the meantime, as I said on the panel, we have to live with what we have now. And what we have now is a mess. And we have to determine how we're going to prioritize adapting to the climate that is, while we simultaneously work to reduce carbon to zero and get to the place we want to be. So if you can look at adaptation as a bridge, it's a long bridge, several hundred years, that can take us from where we are now to where we want to be. So I really think that discussion started conversation. And if we can start conversation with a discussion like we were having, then we've won. Then we won. So I'm grateful to everyone involved in this organization, because you all were encouraging and were very supportive of what we were doing, and that is deeply, deeply appreciated.
No, thank you. And every session has just been full of like great conversations, and it's just keeps getting better and better. There's so much to lean into, but I know that I want to get to AI as well, which I think the idea, and one of the things that kind of crossed, I know Calandra was talking about data and how AI kind of plays into data collection. And so, we talked about AI in the first session. We talked about AI in the second session. One of the technologies is about trying to bring AI in the via mobile, so that people without internet can still have access to the power of AI, kind of addressing some of those inequalities, right? So Keith, you kind of led us through our AI conversation. What did you come up away with? Guess what, Keith? Still muted. We're having a hard time. We can't.
Until he manages, I might just add a little bit that it was what I noticed regarding what you said, Carlos, is that before, when we started, we just see that people who had a long fight in the past, like David had, he was the lonely wolf, right, for many years, and then he finally found some traction, and he found us. The same happened with others, Mike McKay with this spray as well. Then other parts, Jack Lacan. So there are people, organizations in this world that just needed the platform, or they need to be united to get stronger. That is why the word unity is so important. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Kate,
Nope.
we cannot.
Keith still.
Kate, oh wow, this is good. It's late. Yeah, we might.
No, and I think that you bring up a really good point, Christina, with the idea that some of the things that I've seen and I mean Richard I think has talked about it a little bit too, where a lot of folks have been fighting this, fighting the fight kind of thing, right? But really it's been more about just trying to educate and trying to do what they feel is right. And what I'm excited about and what we've been able to do is I think maybe bring some attention to individuals, organizations that have been going out there and trying to do what they can, and they're no longer lone wolves. They're kind of becoming part of just normal conversation. And as David said, once you get the conversation going, that's when you can actually start to have an impact.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why I'm so happy that we are doing this, because it is a conscious construct here, and it is time. I think we are evolved enough, we are conscious enough before AI takes us on all levels to find common agreement and decisions together now when we do have the technologies and we do have the will, just that it's all over the world in different places. We need to bring them together. Yeah. Yeah, still muted, kids. So we might just pass the button.
Check your settings. Check your settings on your the app, and then just change it. One of the things is if you have WhatsApp or something like that, sometimes some programs co-opt the mic, and you can't use it in other programs. So just check that. Technical difficulties, always fun.
Yeah,
so,
we can bring that backstage as well, and it is okay because this is an honest conversation. I always encourage when speakers are asking me and ask during these days how to deal with things in real time. I'm saying, hey, just be you, because this is what we want to show to the world also. And this is my field, leadership. It's a strong word. What I want for this world and for the kids and for the future generations is to have role models. What does it mean? To have leaders who walk the walk, talk the talk, and do those nice things, human things that we want to emulate and model. Because if we don't have those leaders on top, what will the youth understand from their future and what expects them, right?
Right. And so, Keith, I see that you're changing, but let's go, Mara. We just had this conversation today. We talking about leaders. We talked about humanized tech and kind of just being more human. And that's one of the things that kind of also has been a theme across the conversation this week is how do we bring more ethics, more values, more perspective that's more human into the conversation, especially when we're dealing with AI and technology. You had a great panel today. Tell us about what you picked out of it.
Thank you, Carlos. Indeed, I was very fortunate to have some brilliant speakers on the panel. It was absolutely mind-blowing and inspiring. And because it was such a free-flowing conversation, it's probably one of the hardest panels to summarize, but I will do my best for you. I can maybe start with a phenomenon that was indirectly discussed during the panel. Let's call it the ever-increasing weirdness in society. What do I mean by that? I think one of the phenomena we are confronted with is the fact that there is a big clash between the generations right now, in the sense that each new era wholeheartedly embraces the technology and norms of their time, but with each passing generation, the gap between them widens. So probably a 9-year-old right now, sitting in their basement using AI to create a new multi-million-dollar startup will laugh at people like me who grew up listening to CD players and whatnot. So this is what I mean with this weird term, the ever-increasing weirdness of society. And this is just a funny little story to tell you that we did delve into the profound impact of rapidly advancing technology on society and on our humanity. We are really facing an exponential growth of technology, and it does present us with some challenges, from coping with uncertainty to redefining the essence of what it means to be human. We've explored all these tensions, and one could even say that AI emerges as the new superintelligence, especially when AGI would be here, facing us with a huge crisis of meaning as human beings. So we did consider the implications for mental health and the environment. Our discussion explored, I guess, human-centered technological developments, but also resilience in the age of technology ruling our societies, and the ethical considerations, of course, surrounding AI and its use. I also want to, just in the middle of my summary, tell you what our conclusion was, because I think it's very marking for what we talked about. I guess we could conclude that the future is not a destination, but really a journey of self-discovery. Without wisdom, no intelligent policy really can be implemented. And this is a message that we have for future leaders, whether it's governmental organizations or tech entrepreneurs. I think it's really crucial to establish psychological safety and connect humans to technology in a safe way, to embrace change and navigate the uncertain terrain ahead. Because in the end, we are all striving, I think, for a harmonious human-centric coexistence between us as a natural organism, DNA-based computational organism, on the one hand, and on the other hand, AI, which is, or other technologies like quantum technology that we have today, which is another type of ecosystem and organism which evolves at an unprecedented scale, at a very fast, almost non-human pace. And we really did a deep dive in how to try to bridge the gap in these times of VUCA, of uncertainty. We spoke about mental health, how this stress will impact humanity further, how to deal with it. But so much wisdom was shared, really, that it's almost impossible to reproduce what was said in detail. Maybe AI has a better summary of that. I think I will leave it here and let you chime in, Christina.
Yes, of course. I can add a couple of things about the last panel that was absolutely amazing. I mean, wow. I'm so sorry that the people who are wanting the replay for the first part, they cannot have it. But I prepared something for this break, a little bit of a short surprise, and they will see it soon enough. So that's a promise. And what was very important and identified is that self-awareness and inner work, it's a recurring theme, and is the emphasis of self-awareness, self-cultivation, and the importance of internal work to foster external change. And this principle resonated with our MTP, basically, with the Tech for Good led by Good Hearts, by suggesting that ethical leadership in AI begins with individual consciousness and responsibility, because AI was approached this morning a lot. Then community and collaboration. Both discussions highlight the significance of connectivity and collaboration between us. And this aligns with the MTP again, Tech for Good led by Good Hearts. And respect and dignity. This was approached as respect for oneself, others, And the environment emerges as a foundational principle, and it suggests that ethical AI applications and everything that we are doing, ensuring that technological advancements are respectful and beneficial to all stakeholders. And the differences we identified were the approach to technology. While the emphasis on inward reflection and self-awareness is consistent, there's a diversity in how actually technology itself is perceived. People don't see it in the same way yet, and for obvious reasons. Some views technology as a tool for amplification of human intent, suggesting a careful, intentional design of AI systems to ensure they serve the ethical needs, and then others are seeing different aspects of it and applications in specific industries. The discussions did not deeply dive into this specific because industries we didn't have the time, but the principle of respect and dignity hints at the divergent implications for areas like healthcare, where AI can significantly impact patient care, versus sectors like surveillance, where ethical concerns are paramount. And opportunities are huge. The missing parts and what we need to address later on are around invaluable discussions for refining strategies and actions aimed at navigating the complexity of AI for humanity's benefits, and emphasizing self-awareness, community respect, dignity. We can foster ethical leadership in AI. However, realizing our aspirational goals requiring moving beyond abstract principles and just talk and discussions to concrete actions. Okay, now what if we identify that we have these stoppers? What kind of frameworks we can design to operate an ethical AI in the world soon enough, but not too soon? And through continued dialogue, collaboration, innovation, we can ensure that we can keep humanity intact and maybe even evolve to another level while utilizing technology.
So we are only have 3 minutes before the break. And Keith, let's try your mic, see if you're good. Oh, no.
Okay. Can you do cue
cards? We'll try to figure out during the break.
Can we do cue cards like Subterranean Homesick Blues by Bob Dylan and hold up the cards?
It might be a good break just because I took revenge on what happened and I created quick snippets about today's session, the first hour. I'm not sure if I managed in the time I had, but a couple of snippets for everyone once we finalize the humanized tech aspect would be welcome during the break. And so if everyone is aligned, we can jump to that part soon. What do you think? And just restating that we have this fun zone here, people. So go and take the quiz during the break because it's truly an inspiring quiz that we at Tech Leadership Lab had a revelation when we did it, because it just gives you lots of insights about where you are in the game and what you can do to improve, basically. Yeah.
Prepared for you today, we will discuss the impact of our fast-paced technology evolving at an unprecedented exponential rate and the deep impact on our society and on us, human beings. How will we cope with exponential uncertainty? Some of you know the term VUCA. So what does this mean for the essence of being human? How do we navigate a society where AI emerges as the new superintelligence? Countless resources like money, time, and intelligence are invested in this pursuit. But we find ourselves facing the next big crisis as humanity, a crisis of meaning. What happens when we are no longer the smartest beings around, and when algorithms make our decisions for us? And what if work as we know it disappears? What impact will technology have on our mental health? Will further disruption of the climate inflict more trauma and stress on humanity? And what are the solutions for building resilient societies in this technological age? Can we go to a more human-centered technological development? And if so, what does it even mean to be human? Many, many questions to be explored today together in this coming hour.
I'm very grateful to be here today. I have not talked in public about climate change since 2006. What's relevant for today is my biggest influences. It's hard to introduce yourself in a couple of seconds, so I'm not going to even do that. But I am going to talk about what's influenced my humanity. And so my first influence would obviously be my ancestors and the family I was born into, that lineage. And the territory I was born on was the Algonquin Nation in Northeast Canada. So that was very influential. And I started working with AI in the late 1970s, early 1980s. We were using them for the original games. And at that point, we had, another company, a third party, they didn't call it that back then, but another series of buildings belonging to yet another company, because I was in the design artist aspect of it. But we had buildings and buildings and buildings that we had subcontracted that were full of computers who were processing my one drawing that took 3 months for them to input into the computers with a big S on the end of it. And that's where AI originally was invented as an information and communication software. And it still is. It's just a lot of people talk about tech who aren't technologists. So maybe I'll insert a few things today. It took until recently for people to even talk about AI. So part of human and humanity is our timeline of consciousness. And that is very much connected to our mental health. Each individual one of us is in charge of our own mental health and our own self-leadership. But that also includes what we consider attractive regarding information that's out there. What technology has been developed and is being developed that's out there. For instance, the first satellite to use AI and solar cells was launched in 1958. But it wasn't until 2007 that solar cells even entered into the conversation with humanity. So one of the things I did, I took a sabbatical from the film industry, which had the deep pockets for the last 40 years to spend gazillions of dollars on using AI and developing new techs, everything from neural networks and neuromorphic networks and neuromorphic computing to liquid neurocomputing to liquid neural networks. Those are more the new end that hasn't really entered into the human global conversation yet. But, historically, Hollywood had the deepest pockets.
The people that went to the doctors a lot and tended to just need to go to doctors a lot and didn't get better. And everybody knows that when somebody doesn't feel good, they go to the doctor and the doctor says, what's wrong? And what we've learned from a really interesting study at Kaiser and at Harvard and CDC supported is that 4 out of 5 visits to the medical doctor is stress related or anxiety related. And very rarely does the person's story come up, because the approach in medicine for the last 100 years has been biomedical. What's going on biologically, because that's what's going on medically. What we learned, one of the big surprises, is that we developed and are using now in our new app what's called a biopsychosocial assessment. And we've given this to over 500,000 people. We have a study with over 135,000 people. So it's not anecdotal. It's not just, 50 people, a few hundred people. Very large study, probably the largest study that's been done, certainly in mental health. I don't know about other areas, but there's not very many studies with 135,000 people. And what we found was exactly what we're talking about now, is that our past impact our present and future health. Yes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, autoimmune disease, depression, of course, anxiety, and all of the mental health issues, but not just mental health, biological, relationship, sociological. So what Lisa was saying about the importance of the individual, so essential, because we, in the success of the program, we thought we're helping people. How could they gain all the way back? Because we didn't get to helping them resolve the underlying issue. I'll give you one very clear example, that in all the weight loss programs in the world, and all of the new drugs that are coming out that are the miracle weight loss drugs, and all the eat less, exercise more, and all the food, all the programs, nobody asks the question that we learned to ask. And by the way, our teachers, Dr. Fletty and my teachers, were the participants, the patients, the members, the people. They taught us, ask questions. Don't just teach us didactic information. Every overweight person knows what they should eat for breakfast. It's not a lack of information. Ask us questions about our life or about our story. But the question that nobody asks, and we learned to ask, and now we ask it all the time with everybody: at what age did you first start to gain weight?
Such an esteemed panel, and so many topics that are so central to my heart have already been talked about. One of them being the idea that it's just one size fits one for each of us, and that we all have our own unique journey with technology and climate, but mostly our own unique experience within ourselves. So what Dr. Ullman was talking about I was part of that group at Kaiser in the very beginning, long time ago, of the ACEs study. And it was so eye-opening for the clients, everybody who came to Kaiser, to really open up that understanding of how our childhood, how our past impacts us. So building on that, and my interest in neuroscience and how we have to understand how the brain works first to begin to apply technology in a way that's useful for humans. And I think we've overvalued the cognitive, the intelligence piece, and underestimated the unconscious, subconscious, emotional systems that technology cannot possibly begin to emulate. And within that, there's so many confounding factors for us about how do we truly connect with another human being? How do we truly understand another human being in a way that brings us closeness and attachment and love and safety that will inform, because it does, our DNA expression, not just ours, but for future generations. We have to understand the humanity. And I think it was Mara that you brought up the soul piece of this, the heart piece of this, because Those are the pieces going forward that will impact all of us, all of society. And it's not just intelligence. So when we talk about AI, we're talking about intelligence, the classic form of intelligence. And there's so many more intelligences that we need to start to integrate and understand to bring humanity to a place where we all feel safe and taken care of and loved. And we use the technology as a tool, much like Lisa said. I could not agree more that we have the the brains of gods and the technology of monkeys. So I realized I jumped in without saying
in a world yearning for change, there exists a community of visionaries and innovators, united by a common goal to solve Earth's biggest challenges. From climate action to quality education, we're tackling all 17 Sustainable Development Goals reassembled as 10. We embody sustainability, unity, and empathy. Our character and reliability shine as beacons of hope. As role models for future generations, we're building a world where wisdom and consciousness rise, harmonizing life with nature and all species. Join us. Together, let's create a balanced, sustainable future for all.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So we had a little bit of a technical issue with Keith, but Keith went out of his way to make sure he found a way to get back in here. And so, hello, Keith. Welcome, welcome.
I feel like I should do the Verizon commercial here. Can you hear me now?
We hear you loud and clear now. Thank goodness for Verizon, right? No.
Yeah.
So Keith, before we get into like the building the consensus live on air kind of thing, want to just give you a couple of minutes to just kind of give us your perspective on the AI panel.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here today, and it was an honor to serve yesterday with our esteemed leaders, our industry experts. They really brought their A game. If you were there, I can tell you the energy in the room was so powerful that I felt like I needed to really get a lot of coffee or do something to really catch up to the actual momentum that was going on there. But Katrina had kicked off our session with an inspiring presentation, setting the stage for an engaging conversation about AI's potential to address the global challenges. Of course, there's so many challenges that we're talking about right now, especially with the 17 SDGs that we're converting down to 10. But she really started it off in the right manner. Mark Minovich, oh my God, his energy was like so powerful, and just so many emotions that he ended up bringing out of you as he was, just going through his background within AI. Mark's presentation emphasized the urgency of the current situation, where Maya really delved into the ethical considerations and the need for equity in AI development. That was so important for me because I'm thinking back to even the work that we're doing currently right now with Resilient Elephant, and we're creating apps that are helping out in different countries for farming. But, Maya brought up a really important fact, that if we're helping particular areas that are currently thriving and they have the funds to actually move forward with this technology, what's happening to those marginalized communities that exist right next to those areas too as well? So what we could be doing is really increasing that divide that's there. Not only the digital divide, but we're also hurting humanity too as well. So what we're trying to do is really ensure that everyone is working together, that there is consensus, and that there's equity involved with the foundational building of AI. Moving forward, we emphasize on the power of unity and the essential role of diversity for collaborations, even at the grassroots level. We need to build trust. We talked about building trust by using things like blockchain. Blockchain could tell you if something was changed, so we know that this was actually real. Mark brought up a great point that we wouldn't really even know if it was him, if it was a deep fake. He said he was there. We promised us it was really him, but we know it's him. But it's the technology is so amazing right now. If somebody has a picture of yourself, if they have an excerpt of your voice, they're able to manipulate that, and they're able to actually make these videos that are so lifelike that people are transferring millions of dollars from their accounts. Different businesses have gone through this where they have fallen prey to this. We want to ensure that there is trust built into AI so that companies and organizations will basically take this on and say, yes, this is something that we would like to use. We would like to take this to make sure that we have a better work-life balance for our workforce, to ensure that we have the proper elements in our community to create those resilient communities. But how are we going to do that? We're going to need to ensure that there is that background there, that there's that trust, that foundational understanding that the AI is actually legit and it's coming from a recognized source. Going to just go on a little bit further. I know that we are going into our discussion pretty soon. So let's see. So we also spoke about making sure that we're not focusing on having like meetings and meetings and meetings about change. I mean, the purpose of this actual summit itself is to make sure we're going out there and we have actionable items, right? We always talk, we're saying, yes, we're going to do this. Yes, we're going to do this. But then what happens is climate change is getting worse. As we had mentioned before in this conversation, disasters are going from acute to chronic. Disasters are happening all the time. There's multiple $1 million, billion-dollar disasters that are happening, and we want to make sure we're getting on top of this. So we need to work together. We need to collaborate with all the stakeholders at all the levels. And it can't just be about the people that are sitting over in Silicon Valley or other areas, about them just really controlling it. It needs to be about having equitable access to the actual resources but also ensuring that we have community stakeholders that are on board, that this is going to help them. We want them to let them know that their voice is being heard. And sometimes when we're going through these conversations, especially with tech, that doesn't happen. In the US, we have bills that are out there right now where children may lose, or vulnerable populations, they may actually lose their internet access just because of a vote. There's things like that that are happening when, I'm only bringing that up because we're talking about AI. AI goes way beyond the essential needs that people have in communities right now to have access to the internet. And in multiple areas, not just the US, of course, the countries outside of the US, they may not have access to the internet at all. So we need to ensure that we have that particular foundation first, prior to building up AI, and then working towards just creating that community where, again, everyone's voice is heard. So as we move forward, we want to ensure that it's ethical and that it's something that's trustworthy and that we have consensus. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. I know you really wanted to make sure you represented, so thank you for finding a way in. So as we kind of bring it all together in these last 40 minutes or so, we want to talk about what are some of the similarities you heard throughout the different summaries, throughout the presentations you were part of, presentations you attended. Where do we see commonality? I mean, obviously there was a lot of different elements, but if I could just go around the table real fast, give me 3 commonalities, as up to 3, right? And just in 3 words, can you say 3 commonalities? It's a challenge, but I love the power of 3. So let's see if you can do 3 commonalities in 3 words each.
Well, you know me, Carlos, I'm going to go first. You know that. There were 3 that ran through everything. And the first was, don't forget humanity. As we move these initiatives forward, don't forget humanity. The second was, stop talking and take action. And the third was that so much of these seemingly disparate topics had commonality of purpose and commonality of mission. And if we can't put something together that takes us forward from this, then we all need to go somewhere else.
We might have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
I can go next.
Yes.
For me, it's number 1 would be, I think we all agree that we are playing a game of finite resources and relative value in that sense. So I think there is one thing. AI is evolving exponentially, and the resources that we have are not going to follow that. So that's one. A second point would be, will we continue to produce and scale the production of paper clips, or will we start having or reconnecting back to our wisdom and starting to do things with some sense? And the last thing would be education. I think that word has not been said necessarily in that way, but we have constantly spoken about education indirectly, and what we are doing here is educating people first and foremost. So this is my top 3.
Okay, thank you.
I will jump in next. Also as a host, because you see my eyes are all over the screen, and we might interpret that in a weird or negative way, but no, I'm just monitoring and want to welcome everyone who's jumping in also from the LinkedIn side where we are streaming for the first time. It was a surprise, and I see that the count just grows there. And everyone who's here with us live, it's appreciated. I know that when you will see this in replay, but please get to us with your views around what we need to do, because what we are intending to do here is to bring the common knowledge and wisdom to the policymakers and leaders out there who can take the right decisions for humanity. It's audacious, but we are many who want the same thing. And for the three things, to answer your question, Carlos, is that urgency together with the collective action, it's something we agreed on. Then second, cross-sector collaboration, it's absolutely imperative, where we include different parts of the world and also connect local to the global system. And equity and inclusivity, people realize, they know, they understand, and they want to see more of it to be done today.
Okay. Richard, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to quote a 20th century poet. And first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to stop. So we're going to stop unsustainable practices. We're going to collaborate between people. And then we've also got to listen to different perspectives. So not only did he bring out a funky dance, for all the stuff we're doing, it was actually Vanilla Ice that talked about stop, collaborate, and listen. And that actually brings us all together to actually, and it's really actually interesting when you delve into that. So there we go.
You brought Vanilla Ice into the conversation. I mean, what else can be said?
Yeah. I'll send a video of me dancing to him and MC Hammer later. Yes.
Oh my God. I got to see that. Divya, let's go to you.
You said 3 words, but it can't be 3 words only. But I would say it was more about being human, being ethical, being responsible, being trustworthy, and either being educated or being knowledgeable about what we are doing and why we are doing. So I would say 5 words, but yeah, that's for me.
No, that works. That works. And Keith, let's bring you back in.
Sure. Thank you so much. So, I mean, there's more than 5 words, but what I'd like to say is really, in summary, is really about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and really the importance of collaboration, innovation, and the principal idea to forge a better future for all. So it's not just about, like talking about DEI, which has been like a big thing, but the practical necessities for meaningful impact and building a world where technology serves humanity of its entirety. And it's really about stopping right now, as you had mentioned before, and having actionable items. So diversity, stopping and, getting rid of any of the judgment that you have right now in your head and just allowing people to talk and finding out where we can meet them instead of trying to build a roadmap for them, treating it almost like you're dealing with a disaster client where you're going to show up authentically, you're going to listen to them, and then you're going to help them create their own path. It's not about you to come in saying you're going to solve everything and you're going to create this whole, it's about really understanding what's happening in the community so we all can come together and collaborate and build a promising future for us all.
Oh, I need to jump in. Because the word flexibility was all over my head right now, because what happened with Keith and the entire structure, he moved places, he went to, I just presume where, to be here live with us. And it's so important in today's world to be flexible. If something doesn't add up or it doesn't happen as you want, or if someone shuts your streaming live in the middle of things, it's something you just need to take it as, okay, it happened and it's not the end of the world. Let's move on, because this is how nice things are happening and collaborations are happening, because the real leaders, they never give up on humanity, on positivity, on moving on. The rest will just stay and will complain with the beer in front of them, in front of the television, and they will say very ugly words for those who are doing things. But you know what? We just need to handle this kind of responsibility, because not everyone is made to be a leader, but we all have humanity in us. And by definition, most humans are good. And if we take this into consideration, things can be fun. It's something that we want to nurture in TLL. Not always happens as it should. And for sure, I had my bitchy face on many times, and it was a crazy process, the summit, and for sure I was not smiling every day, trust me. But every time when I realized, oh my God, what are you doing? You are just digging a hole into misery and depression and anxiety, and come out of this, because this is not what you want to show in the world, and it's not the life you want to portray. It's about making things in a human way as well. I mean, we collaborated well, and after the misery part, it was just like I had awesome discussions with David, with Keith, with Maura, with Divya, with Richard, with Carlos, with the entire TLR tech leadership team. And it was such a learning process. We as humans need to understand that we are not perfect, but if we tend to perfection and we are driving our actions with a good, positive vision ahead, then things will happen eventually. Yeah.
If I could just add one more thing, in the disaster world, we always have Gumbies. Like, you'll see Gumbies around people because we say Semper Gumby, because we always have to be flexible. When you're going out to a disaster operation, you could be there to be the top of the operation, but they need a shelter worker. So what are you going to be? You're going to be a shelter worker, because that's what you're there for. You're there to help. It's not about your ego. It's not about your title. It's not about your authority. It's showing up for the community with authenticity. So it's so important. And then to always, just like as Christina just mentioned, always think that people have the best intentions. And take a pause, breathe. If you hear something that doesn't really resonate with you, or, you know, before making a face, before saying anything, just stop, pause, and just think about it before you actually respond to somebody then. And give them that grace that you would hope that other people would give you too. And that's so important as we go through this conversation. And we had thought leaders from around the whole entire world. Christina, I don't know how you did this. There's so many questions I'm getting, is how did Christina find all of these amazing people? And I'm like, I don't know. But it's like, it's just trying to understand that, you know, wherever we come from throughout the world, that people are going to have different viewpoints. There's going to be words that mean different things, and a lot of things could be lost in translation. So it's really just showing up, being authentic, and just wanting to collaborate for the greater good. Not just about your personal brand or the brand of the organization that you're with. It's for humanity. Thank you.
Yeah, no. And I think that kind of covers a lot of the commonalities. And I think luckily we have more commonalities than differences, right? I think that the idea was we all agreed on what needs to be done. The approach to achieving might have been where the differences were, right? And so I know, you know, net zero is a thing, but then we were talking about climate adaptation, and you know, some of the discrepancy in funding between the two areas, right? Some people are looking, we had fusion, and Near Star Fusion was talking about how they're doing it, but there's like 6 other paths that are being taken, if not more, right? We talked about AI and, you know, how should it be implemented? One of the questions that I think came out, one of the things that I heard a lot of was that we need frameworks, that we need ethics, that we need understanding, that we need global, you know, kind of management. And that led me to ask the question myself, who would implement that? Is it the UN? Is it government? Is it organizations like the Web Consortium? Is it a new AI global organization? I know that there's several AI nonprofits out there that are trying to figure out how to bring everyone together. So the point being is, I don't think we disagree on what needs to happen. I think what we are trying to get our head around more is how to achieve it. And I don't think that there's any one right answer. So, you know, we'll start with Divya. I want to get your perspective on that. And what did you see the differences being, or what are the nuances of the conversation?
Thank you once again for inviting me to speak about, but then I started thinking in a different perspective when everyone was talking about all this inclusion and flexibility, commonality, collaboration, so many things. But first we have to understand that the kind of world we are living in are very, very different from the kind of places we come from. We have absolutely different perspective of even being human, to be very frank. For some people, it's just for survival. For some, it's to give back to society. For some, they live for society only. And for some, they are just there to enjoy everything over there, and maybe they're not interested in contributing to the society. So that is what I started thinking when we were discussing all this. And there was a comment about developing and developed countries coming together and working towards all this. As humans, first we have to understand what humanity means. Is it only about helping humans, or is it only helping nature? Is it helping all kind of living beings? And how are we going to do that? We have to find that particular point of connection in between all the humanity, all the nature, all the living being, be it on earth, be it underwater, anywhere, because everything contributes to environment, everything contributes to the whole atmosphere that we are consuming right now at a very rapid scale. So when it comes to AI, humanity, and what we can take action about climate, the most important part to understand is how are the societies working towards it. And societies does not mean only in developed or developing world, but around us as well. The contribution should be continuous. It should not be waiting for something to happen, some disaster to take place, to take that particular step and then contribute. We are supposed to be collaborating forever and ever, and that is the only way of finding a solution. That's, at least that's what I feel. And that being said, yes, there is no, international law does not have absolute authority. It is a soft law. It does not work similarly everywhere. It's on jurisdictions how they accept it. But there are many things which have to be considered even when we are talking about international law, humanity, male, female, gender, anything, because all of it at the end comes down to if we have water at the end of the day to drink or not, whether it is clean enough to drink or not, then what will you have if there is no soil, there is no earth left? How will you produce food? Agriculture becomes pertinent. We have to think about how to take care of that and not overuse the earth. We have to find ways, as in how we can do horizontal and vertical agriculture both. Though all those are coming up, they are all tech which are people are developing worldwide in order to make sure that we have at least earth left to use. And I think I at least was thinking that we are here to talk about all this, and we actually talked about it. And at the almost at the end of this, I'm feeling like this was needed, but this actually is needed on a more large scale than this much, because there are spaces or there are places where it has not even reached, because we are sitting in our comfortable places and we are talking about it. It's not reaching the masses, and it has to reach the masses once they are educated enough about the concept of how they are overusing earth, how they are overusing climate. There is a possibility we'll be saved. I always try and understand it from the perspective where I come from. How we are misusing it, I can see it every day all around. People do not realize that how much overuse of water they are doing. They don't realize that that fresh water is not available for everyone. There are women who travel like 50-60 kilometers or miles just to fetch a bucket of water. There are people who don't have enough water to drink, to even cook food. So we have to understand it from, that's why I said we have to understand from global perspective, the national perspective, then come to local perspective, and then understand that we have to start from local, because every locality has its own issues and we have to focus on that also. And I guess there definitely comes resilience, there comes responsibility, trustworthiness, every aspect of it. And I do hope that this reaches the masses, and this reaches to those people who really need to learn and get educated in order to how to use all this, what we are overly using. And I really pray that hopefully someday our next generation will praise us that we were doing something about it, and they had that nature to use, and they don't have to rely on capsules for food. So yeah, I hope they enjoy the kind of food which we enjoy, the way we have used our nature. So that
Well,
was my bit.
your thoughts sparked. People want to jump in and start questions. Mara, you wanted to jump in on that, and Christina wanted to jump in too. So let's go for it, Mara.
Absolutely, thank you. Divya, you are a star. I would have really loved to have you on our panel, actually, because this is exactly what we spoke about. Yes, David, you too. All of you, really. But yeah, we had to make tough choices, obviously. Just because we had the technical issues that we spoke about earlier, and our panel was sort of caught off in two different live streams, I would love to maybe go more in depth into something that has been touched upon in the panel that is very close to what you say, Divya. It is so crucial to understand our interconnected reality, where, you know, biological, biochemical, physical systems intertwine. And, you know, it's important to reveal the insignificance of infinite resources in a game of relative value. What do I mean by that? It is important to realize how everything is an ecosystem, and we need an infinite amount of resources if we want to be able to sustain the current exponential growth at a monster scale, as I spoke about before. But obviously we lack these resources, and in understanding our reality and how everything is interconnected, how everything exponentially influences each other, infinite resources will mean nothing in the end, because our value game, which is intrinsically really our nature as human beings, this is our value. So in a world where everything will become accessible, true significance or true value may lie in the ultimate human experiences, you know, a spiritual journey, a quest for wisdom and raised awareness. What do I mean by this? You know, a big challenge arises when everyone will start to possess and really integrate with technology in a way, when it will become so democratic. The question is, what will we do as humanity? Will it trigger tribalism and status games, which are inherent to our human nature? And actually, to navigate this shift, we must elevate our consciousness and awareness. And for me, this is actually the crux to wisdom, because as technology exponentially surges, I want to say, our biological algorithms pale in comparison. So what will remain will be the simple yet profound experiences in life, like connection to self, connection with others, and with our human nature. And this is what we spoke a lot about in my panel. But what better way to gain wisdom than by means of education? And education is something really local and decentralized per definition. Technology can enable us to learn exponentially, and you know, performance, our human performance could be bionically coached and optimized. The question is, could we achieve a state of exponential learning by symbiotically merging with our technology? I'm looking to Richard because that is his field of expertise. But in any case, personal intelligence powered by AI assistants is already very common and may become the norm. Yet in a world where everyone will possess AI, you know, we will have these specific challenges that will challenge the very essence of what it means to be human. So will it foster collaboration, or will it devolve into this tribalism and status games that I spoke about earlier? I think raising awareness and wisdom is really vital in the face of this impending ontological shock that we are all facing, sometimes without even knowing it. But I will stop here.
I can jump directly just to speed up the process because I wanted to address something for Divya. But before that, to acknowledge all the amazing panelists for all of the sessions, because you are not here by chance. And I'm glad that Divya and you are shining star, and what you have in the background, it's shown this time, because when we had a discussion, it was very clear to me that you don't see how amazing you are, and that you should be highlighted more, because your comprehensive knowledge around multiple fields from the SDGs and how they can be solved, and backed up with your advocacy, and being also a Supreme Court judge who understands not just everything around tech, because you are also a lawyer in technology. You are connected to the AI Institute and everything that's happening around AI. So I don't want you to leave and to not be discussed this before we will have continual discussions in our weekly events, to not address the policy question to you and regulatory evolution, because I'm very, very curious. This is crucial for us. What precise policy adjustments and frameworks would you see for the world based on what you just said about how different we are? And if we don't align soon enough, it's just a bit, maybe it's too late. So what would you suggest, with all of your knowledge, that we should do regulatory, globally, together with what we have today?
First, I would like to correct a small thing. I'm not a judge. I'm an attorney. I practice law, and a judgeship is something very different. But that being said, what you ask is a very big ask. I don't think I'm the right person, or I don't have that much knowledge. I'm just learning, and I hope I keep learning that ways. What I, sorry, what I understand from whatever we have been discussing, or I've been listening to so many other panels also, and other think tanks as well. What I feel, first we have to come on the same page. We have to understand where we have to start the revolution. Now we are talking about many things in the same space. We have to find that one core of the concept or the issue, and then start pointing out or resolving or finding solution for one thing at a time, because everything cannot be solved at the same space. So we have to find right people, right technology, right kind of policy has to be there. Policy should not only be considering certain strata of people. It has to understand from the grassroots level till the uppermost level, where there is a huge difference from what we are working from and where we want to reach. There is a huge gap in understanding from where I see when the policies are made anywhere, almost anywhere in the world. Usually it is made by the people who have very little either interaction with the public, or they have always been in a sphere where they understand things from only their perspective. So first focus should be to reaching out to those right people who actually are willing to bring in that change. And that change only can come up with the right kind of education, right kind of knowledge being imparted, which you already have started. And this is something which as per my understanding, my limited knowledge, I feel will bring in a lot of change if we keep on doing it continuously, and we increase our connection, we increase our collaboration, and we are doing it with all our heart, just not for saying sake. Because there are many times I've seen people say many things, but then at the end there is very little that could be done, or they did very little. So I have seen that in very least developed countries as well as developing countries, and similarly in the developed countries as well. So we have to understand that anything we start, it has to start from a core. We have to find one calling, like you said, flexibility, like you said, collaboration. You are collaborating for the right reasons, but we have to find that right reason to reach to everyone possible. Let's say your area, my area, everywhere. If we can make it a revolution, it will bring in the change, because that's how anywhere in the world change has come. You have to fight for it. There is no other way, be it for women rights, be it for human rights, be it for anything. We have seen changes happening because of these fights, revolutions happening around the world, be it Nelson Mandela, be it Gandhi, be it anyone in the world. They have always found a core reason of finding out the solution and tried to find one. So that is my bit, I guess, for finding out a proper policy, we first have to understand the need of that space. Like when Richard was talking about biomimicry work in Kerala, they started with a very basic understanding of need of that particular place. So they are trying to find a solution for that. So we have to find that particular space for ourselves also. The kind of talk which we are having, it's absolutely amazing only if it becomes a reality for the people who actually need it, and we have to reach out to them. I don't know how we will reach out, but we will reach out. And if we come up with a very nice policy explanation that this can be included, I don't think that governments also will also shy away from this. They are ready to do things, but we also have to find a way to give them the right reasons, right ways, and how to do it probably. So that is my bet. There are international laws in place already, but not implemented successfully for whatever reason. There are so many things that stop people from doing certain things. But as per my understanding, this is what I feel. The cause which we have gathered here is a noble cause. Saving the climate, nothing else. We cannot survive without climate. We cannot survive without environment. We cannot survive without plants, oxygen. Everything is, we are talking about data as oxygen for AI. Fine, but for us, we need real oxygen. We cannot go on oxygen cylinders and work. So we have to find that. I guess I'll stop here now, because if I keep on going, I'll start remembering things and I'll keep on talking about it for long. So thank you so much for giving the space.
No, thank you. So we have only like 5 minutes left. So we're going to do fast roundtable. Hit me with your best shot. See, now I got songs stuck in my head too. Thanks, Richard. We're gonna go through, and I'm gonna go in order that I see it on my screen. Christina, we're gonna start with you. 3 actions you're going to do after this event, and for each of you, just 3 actions you're going to take after this event based on what you've heard, what you want to see done in the world. Create the future you want to see.
Oh, this is easy. Thank you for this easy question. I was scared because everything is around the Tech Leadership Lab Next objectives, taking everything that we got through these days and creating the consensus document, bringing back every speakers in joint ventures to go and dig deeper. And we have you back in our lives. And once we have the document, and tons of content and materials that will come out of the summit, I will make sure to reach the desk of the right people. And trust me when I say that if I want to reach, I can. And so this is what I will do for many months to come from now, until the next summit in October.
David.
First, to synthesize what I've learned and boil that down into salient actions. Nothing happens unless you get to the point where you say, who is going to do what, by when, what resources will be needed, and how do you get those resources? That is the secret to moving forward in any endeavor. And one as important as this is what we're all talking about. That's number one. Number two is to develop collaboration with everyone here today and others. The only way we're going to survive is if we work together, and we work together in areas where we have commonality, finding those common threads. I already know I have one with Keith because we both work in disasters. So guess what? I'm going to reach out to Keith, and he and I are going to have a conversation. We're going to talk about what we could do together. This is the only way we're going to survive, guys.
And your number 3?
The third thing is to continue learning. And I think it was Divya, you're wonderful, that said, learning. We must learn. If we don't continue learning, we'll go backward. Either go forward or backward. There's no in between. So that's it. Those are the 3 things.
All right. Keith.
I'm going to reflect, of course, about all this amazing information that I've learned throughout this period of time. Then I'm hoping to steal another C. I'm going to collaborate, of course, with all the stakeholders that are here and the stakeholders that are in my current network right now. And then I'm going to work on C, another C, creating. creating and developing methodologies and practices that we can actually hold each other accountable for, so we can move each other forward instead of just having another conversation. Thank you.
I love your 3 C's. All right, Divya? Oh, wait, no, sorry, Maura.
All right. First point of action, I deliver a lot of keynotes. In my keynotes, I shall be spreading more awareness on models of wisdom like spiral dynamics, which are already very much used in business and can improve education. I think that's really crucial for our future because children are the future. Second point of action, I'm already doing it actually. I'm trying to find the others. I find you guys, I found you and all the people in the audience here with one scope, which is stimulating grassroots movements like the Tech Leadership Lab, for example, because I really believe decentralized groups of empowered people can come together for the purpose of co-creating projects that are so awesome that the current oil tanker type of systems based on archaic ways of doing things will become obsolete. But in no case I promote polarization, obviously. And third and last point, as an AI and quantum tech entrepreneur, I shall be integrating the concept of oneness more in all my companies. We are already doing this, but we have this deep understanding of humans as DNA-based ecosystems. And I think it is very important to integrate this knowledge with the technological ecosystems, but in a human-centric way. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, Divya, now, sorry.
No problem. So for me, I'll go with obviously learning, imparting education and teaching will be the first thing, because that is how you meet the new minds who have eager queries and they have a better perspective maybe towards life and how they can take care of climate. And the second will be, I'll be promoting more about diversity and cultural aspects, because they are the ones which are the core of everyone, wherever they are coming from. They learn their culture first and then they enter the society, because that comes from parents and society. So that should be our focus, at least according to me, that if we can impart that particular thought process, that you have to be careful about how you are using the climate, I guess that will bring in a lot of change. Third, I would add in technology. Why? Because technology has made all of this possible, that we can come together and think about any revolution. So making this technology a reality for people who have no access to this kind of technology, who are unable to get connected and learn and understand what world is thinking about and where world is going. So that will be my 3 bits. I hope they will be useful for future as well.
Okay, and Richard, and if you bring up Vanilla Ice again.
I'm going to, because everybody else kind of covered my stuff. And plus, you told me not to. And I run my own business, so I don't listen to others. No. So yeah, for me, it's about stopping looking at connecting into new businesses and actually looking at who am I already connected with, whether it's through events like this, and actually saying, right, where can I actually build up these collaborations? We've been doing this for the past few weeks with work in the Middle East by looking at what skills are slightly overlapping, but we don't have them completely overlapping. Just build up these kind of like super teams, especially with smaller businesses as well, because then you can be a lot more nimble and actually deliver to the clients or to the environment or wherever actually the people you're seeing on the screen are the ones you're working with. And yeah, and then it's sitting out and actually, and this is why I do something sitting in my gardens and it's a bit work, is listen and just watch, see what's happening. Sometimes my hobby is street photography, and I like seeing how people interact with place and also, you know, insects as well. So it's that, I know it's cheesy to link back to Vanilla Ice, but just slowing down and listening to people, whether it's my children or the community or nature itself. Obviously, you listen to a bear growling, you do want to run, but if I'm working with Carlos, I think I could outrun him. So, yes.
Thank you. All right. So the last words are going to be for Christina, but from I just want to say thank you to everyone working with all of you, working through this process, getting you involved. the amount of time you contributed, the knowledge you gave. It's been a humbling experience to be with so many amazing people. Thank you so much. Christina, take us away.
I don't believe that I will say this, but based on what was just said before, I want to add slow down. For those who know me, they will say, "What? Christina, slow down?" Yes, and I will translate. It doesn't mean that you slow down your actions. It means that you need to digest what you have today available, including human connections, including just settling down all the information and everything you just heard and what you already know. I will do the same for the following weeks, settling everything I've learned, all the information. We need that kind of peace of mind because it's not about learning the new stuff. It's about what we do with what we had today. And that's an important message. Thank you for being with us. And Tech Leadership Lab is here to stay and be active and keep humanity accountable and united. And with those values, leadership values alike, global values that appreciate uniqueness, but that aligns on a common goal to solve the SDGs, starting with the climate, because it's about how our future will look like, not just for us, but very importantly to our children and the future generations, and for every empath out there, every human who cares about others. This is an important topic. For me, it's my main driver. And for that reason, as long as I live, I will drive this movement as high as possible. And with that said, I truly need your help. And together with who we had at this amazing event, the panelists will stay close and will act and will get back and will find ways to move the needle forward. Please do the same. Get active, spread the word, subscribe to our channels, support every initiative we do, because we do this for you, for us, and that is our ulterior, our hidden motive, and the second hidden motive, and the third hidden motive. So if there are people, and there are many people who do things for the right causes, Tech Leadership Lab is doing the things for the right causes. And if you want the right type of leadership and actions, please help us grow, reach as many people around the world, decision makers, policymakers, to move that needle and solve that SDG as soon as possible. And with that said, keep close, because we will continue with many materials coming out. You won't miss a thing if you are here with us. The consensus document will be highlighted. I think we will need around a couple of weeks, maybe a month, to have a comprehensive document ready. But until then, you will have tons of little materials, snippets, videos, consensus parts, big aha moments, highlights that we might miss now, but together with AI and technology and others who will signalize what we missed, we will bring all of those jewels to you, into your attention, in a way that we will find a way to move things faster for the benefits of us. And with that said, I'm officially closing this first inaugural summit. I'm so happy that we nailed it. And I want to congratulate the entire Tech Leadership Lab, who did the best, and they just hustled during this 6 weeks, to build this amazing global summit for you to enjoy the wisdom of our speakers and joint venture for a better humanity and for a better future. See you on the other side. And that would be it. Bye, everyone.
world yearning for change, there exists a community of visionaries and innovators, united by a common goal to solve Earth's biggest challenges. From climate action to quality education, we're tackling all 17 Sustainable Development Goals reassembled as 10. We embody sustainability, unity, and empathy. Our character and reliability shine as beacons of hope. As role models for future generations, we're building a world where wisdom and consciousness rise, harmonizing life with nature and all species. Join us. Together, let's create a balanced, sustainable future for all.